Okay, Year 8. This is the final lesson of this topic on Africa. So throughout this topic, we have looked at a variety of different lessons. We've looked at the history of Africa, where Africa is in relation to the rest of the world, the human and physical aspects of Africa. We've looked at the biomes of Africa, the climate of Africa, and we looked at high and low pressure. We then looked at deserts in a little bit more detail and the plants and animals adaptations. And then we looked at tropical rainforests in a little bit more detail, looking at, again, the plants and animals adaptations. So in this lesson, we're finishing it off and we're bringing in all of our knowledge through the whole topic to look at the population of Africa, to describe how the population of Africa has changed, to define key terms such as population density and distribution, and then to describe and explain how Africa's population is different in different regions. So task 1 then. So with the work that you've been given today, this is task 1. And for task 1, we need to describe the population of Africa using this line graph. Now remember, when we are describing maps, figures, photographs, images, we need to try and use the writing frame T. So T is our trend, E is our evidence, and A is our anomaly, also known as an outlier. Okay. So what is the overall trend? Well, we're looking at the pattern. So we're looking at this line to see how it's changed between 1950 and 2019. And it's very clear that there has been a sharp increase in Africa's population. So our trend would be that overall Africa's population has sharply or rapidly increased. So that is our trend. We've given the pattern. Okay, so what's next then? Well, we need to back this up with evidence. We need to describe this line graph as if someone had their eyes closed and they couldn't see it, but you're going to give them a real visual representation of what it looks like. So, for example, let's look at 1950 first. So in 1950, the line is just beneath this 250 million line. So I would say that that was roughly what? I think you could say roughly. For example, in 1950, there were roughly 250 million people in Africa, whereas in, well, let's look at 2019, this area here. So let's draw a line across. Whereas in 2019, the population was roughly, so it's just above that line. So if we were just given a guesstimation, I would say roughly 1.3 billion. Okay. So let's go further with this. So we're still doing the evidence, but let's back it up with a little bit of data. So let's say how much it has increased over time. So if we were looking at the increase, the population has increased by roughly 1.05 billion. So that suggests that that line has increased quite a lot. Now, is there an anomaly? So an anomaly is where the data, or somewhere along the line, doesn't fit the rest. Now, this line is quite it's quite smooth. There are no little blips in it like this, for example. So if you didn't want to include an anomaly, you wouldn't have to. So once you've described task 1, let's move on to task 2. For task 2 then, we need to know what these keywords mean. So what I would like you to do is match the correct keyword to the correct definition. Now, I'm not going to give you the definitions, but I'm going to help you by using these football matches at the bottom. So we can see for match 1, they're all quite evenly spaced out. So I would say that they were evenly distributed. Now, in match 2, there's the same amount of people that are in the match 1 image, but they're all close together. They're very compact. So this would be classed as being densely populated. So there's more people per area. And then match 3, there's A, less people, and then B, they're more spread out. So these would be classed as being sparsely populated. So use these images of the football fields to match the correct word to the correct definition for task 2. Task 3 then, we are going to use our knowledge from task 2, so our key terms, to describe the population distribution of Africa. And we're going to use this, or do this, using a choropleth map. So a choropleth map, they're really important in geography, and they allow us to use colour and shadings of colour to represent different values. So generally, the darker the colour, the higher the value. So we can see here that white is 0.9 people per square kilometre. So remember, a square kilometre, if we had a square, this would be 1 kilometre here, 1 kilometre here, 1 kilometre here, and 1 kilometre here. And it's how many people are in that square. The 10 to 49 people per square kilometre is yellow, so there's more people per the square kilometre. Orange, there's more again, there's more than double. And then the red colour, there's only a couple, they have over 100 people per square kilometre. So we're going to use the choropleth map to describe the distribution of people in Africa. So let's use the sentence starters that we have on the screen. Okay then. So places in Africa with an extremely sparse, so places that have very little people per square kilometre, are found in, so we're looking at these regions here, this area numbered 9 and the area numbered 2. So we could say that they are found in Northern Africa. You could go even further and start to give examples of names of places, and they're also found in southwestern Africa. So we're not saying why they're there, we're just describing what we can see. So let's talk about the next place then, the yellow colour. So places in Africa with a sparsely population, so they're between 10 and 49 people per square kilometre. There's a lot of places you could talk about. You could talk about Madagascar, which is here, or you could talk about the majority of Africa. So you could say they're found in Central Africa, or you could say they're found off the east coast of Africa. In Madagascar, which is here. And then let's talk about the places that are densely populated. So they're not extremely densely populated, they're this like orangey colour. So places in Africa with a densely populated population are found in, so we could talk about any of these regions, region 1, region 3, region 4, or region 7. So I would say they're found in Central Africa, and I'd actually go a bit further on both the east, so that's number 7, and the west coast. And then you could also talk about in the most northern points of Africa, and so in Northern Africa, which on our thing is labelled 1. Okay. And then what about the other places then? So the places that are this dark red colour, well, they are found in places such as I'd say that's on the eastern side of Africa, kind of in the centre. So Central Eastern Africa. And then we also have this area here, which is actually found in Egypt. So that would be classed as Northern Egypt, which is a country in Africa. Okay, so, when you're completing task 3, you might actually want to have open a map or using your study file maps to help you do this more thoroughly. So let's move on then to task 4. So for task 4 then, we are going to be explaining, so we've described where people live, where the most people live, where the least people live, and now we need to give reasons for this, because there's always reasons why people choose to live in certain places. So below are 2 maps. We have on the left, so this map here is our choropleth map that's showing us the population distribution. And then this map here is a physical map, which is showing us the location of tropical rainforests. So this green colour is our tropical rainforests. The yellow colour are our deserts, and the blue colours are our water bodies, so lakes and rivers. Okay. So you can already start to think, well, I would much rather prefer to live near a river than I would prefer to live in a desert where it's very hot and very dry and it's very difficult to survive. So we're going to use these 2 images and the sentence starters on the sheet to give reasons how the physical landscape can impact the population density. So if we look at the image on the left, we can see here, this is where the Sahara Desert is. And similarly, this area here, number 9, this is where we find the Kalahari Desert. And these are both places that have the lowest population density. So we could say something about the fact that the least populated areas are found in the deserts. And that's because they're hot and dry, which means there's no animals or little animals. So there's little animals and plants. So it would be, you'd be like, competing all the time for food. So you'd be competing for resources, making it hard to survive. So that's maybe why people don't live there. So where then do we see areas that are most densely populated? Well, we have this region here, number 6 and number 8. And if you look in the middle of number 8, we actually have Lake Victoria. And number 6, this shaded bit is actually around the River Nile, which we can see here. So it's clear that the most populated areas, the most densely populated areas, are found near water bodies. Which means that it's easier to travel. So you could travel along the river. It's easier to find food because there'll be lots of fish and animals that go to the water source for food and water. It'll be much more easier to grow your crops because you have a reliable water source. And then it's also easier because you can wash more freely than in areas where the rainfall is a lot more sparse. So use this information, please, to help you fill out task 4. And if you have any questions and you're still stuck, then please send me a message on It's Learning.